In addition to sexual assaults, which typically start out in a lying down position, people are often knocked to the ground, or they'll trip over stuff or slip over something in the middle of an attack or fight situation. So it's important to know both how to fall down safely first and foremost, and of course what to do once you get down there. So we're just going to show you basically how to do that. I'm going to start this out with a big situation like a monster shove. And from there, I'll teach you what to do. Okay, now I'm going to show you just another way sometimes that people fall down. That time I got knocked down and I went on my side. I'm going to show you one more and then I'll break the techniques down. In this one, I'm just going to end up falling on my back, which is very, very common.
Down there.
And then from there, I would continue my attack. So, first I want to show you how to fall down in the safest way possible. The main goal in falling down or getting knocked to the ground is trying to protect your head. So, here's what's happening. As the shove comes in, which is very common, you might get shoved, I'm going to sort of ride it, bleed it out a little bit. Now, here's the falling down part. I'm going to break this into bite-sized pieces. It starts with a little step, almost like a curtsy. So I'm stepping back, come to sort of a kneeling position, sit. That way I don't just fall from high. And then from there, I'm going to take my two hands and land on one side. That's important that all of me is on one side. From falling down in this position, I'm also immediately going to load up my leg. By that, I mean to draw this leg back and get it ready for side kicks, which we'll be teaching you in just a moment. But this falling position is important. I want to show it to you one more time, breaking it down. So from a shove, step back, kneel, sit, and fall onto your side. Okay? As quick as you can in one fell swoop. Now I'm going to do this a little bit faster. This protects my head and it gets me in perfect position with both hands down. And the supporting arm is very important here. I just want to show you why both hands need to be here. Because when you deliver that kick and there's impact, there's pressure force coming back at you. If I didn't have this hand in place, what would happen is my head would clunk. And it's very hard to counterattack if you're unconscious. What's even more common is that people will get thrown onto their back, and you really don't want to just go in one piece, clunk. So let's take a look at this. Okay, let me get up here. First, again, break this down for yourself so that even if you're moving fast, you want to start tucking a foot and falling slowly onto your back into more of a kind of a rocking horse. This is the ideal here, so that you curl your back in this way and you tuck your chin. This is important. Tuck your chin. You're looking towards your navel, this area, so that your head doesn't clunk. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm going to slap the surface of whatever I land on. And this can really help absorb the shock so that you don't just, your whole body and your back doesn't just eat it. Stepping slowly backwards. This is the safest way to fall. Side kicks are one of your bread and butter techniques from a lying down position. So I want to go over the mechanics of this. First, you're going to get on your side, let's say your left side, with your two arms down as we were in the falling position. Only this time stretch your legs out long. Now, what you're going to do is draw your legs up to a comfortable position, then take your top leg and point it up towards the ceiling. Next, you're going to flex, that's the opposite of point, your top leg. Okay? Now, the mechanics of the side kick are pretty simple, but it's important that you get the hips into it. So very slowly, this is what the kick looks like. I'm extending out towards the target, And as I go, my knee starts to turn and point towards the floor, so that as I continue all the way to the end, there's a hip rotation, and in the finish position, my heel is what I'm kicking with, not the itsy-bitsy toes, and the toes are pointed down, and the feeling is a long bone, and I'm extending through the target. Then immediately after the kick, you retract or reload the leg. Very important. So again, slowly, I'm kicking out, turning the leg over, extending through the heel. Also, I've got to look at the target. If you want to hit a target, you've got to look at it. Everybody's body is going to be a little bit different in how to accommodate this move. Some people may end up a little bit more like this. Some people a little more upright. That's fine, but it's important to keep your hands on the ground. And then I'm going to pull, retract the leg. This leg stays kind of tucked in and gives me some mobility here in case I had to switch around, which is going to happen. Okay? Now I'm going to do this more full speed, full power, yelling as I deliver the kick. So it looks like this. Kick! Pull back. Kick! Pull back. Kick! Pull back. Critical that you want to get the hips into the act here. Again, it's like that glass of water is stationed on my hip, and as that happens, I put that spin into it, the water splashes onto the floor. That's one way to think about this. Pull the leg back. So you can practice this with a partner and a kick pad, because you really want to have some impact on this. So I'm going to position myself. Again, I'm checking my range, my distance, so I'm going to place my foot on there, and I want to be close enough that I can go a little bit through that target as I kick, okay? This would be too far, and this would be not good because you're jammed up. And you don't want to be jammed up because then you're going to deliver like really half, 50% kind of kicks, and that's not good. Practice right now for the ideal, even if the ideal doesn't really come up in an actual situation. You want to practice it the best way you can. So here's a nice distance for me, and it's important, again, load the leg back. Kick! 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 Main thing is that you've got to go through. This isn't tap, pull back. That won't do any good, okay? And it's not a push. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make sometimes when learning, is that they start pushing. This is defensive. I want to be offensive. So I load my leg, kick, and I want to kick through. Now, I'm just going to switch over to the other side, because it's good to practice on both legs. And watch how I do that. I keep myself compact here. You see how I'm kind of like this little ground creature is how I feel, you know? And as I switch over, I just kind of stay in one piece like this. I'm going to switch back. So one of the ways I do that, because you want to be able to be very quick. You don't have time, a sexual assault or some kind of a knockdown. Let's see. Okay, now I'll switch over. And big pause here in between. You've got to, this is both your sword and your shield. So you've got to keep it up all the time. So when I switch, I sort of dig this toe in. Dig it into the ground. That way, I have control of my whole body. And I can use it a little bit to launch me. Always ready in the kicking position. So from this side here, okay, same thing. You would check your distance. Get close enough to go through. Both hands are now planted on this side. Leg is back. Kick! 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 Again, each time looking at the target and going right through. The thrust kick, okay? So again, practicing with a partner and a shield. Best delivered most likely from on your back position. So the thrust kick is the same thing. What you do is you pull the leg back. This is loading or chambering the leg, very important. And then from there, again with the foot flexed, I'm going to drive through my target. So from here, kick! Load it back. Kick! Kick! You've really got to put a lot of snap into that. Again, not pushing. This is not with my toes or a push away. Especially when we get to the rape defense, this becomes critical in a lying down position. You don't want to just go, if he was the bad guy, I don't just want to go, ooh, ooh. and try to get distance by going away, your job is to go through. So it's not this, it's this. Okay, you want to go through. Now, I want to just point out for you what some of the actual targets are with these bread and butter kicks. So back to the side kick for a moment. Against somebody who's standing, again, being knocked down, I could go for the knee. Okay? It's conveniently located at about the right height. You can also kick into the groin, especially if you've got long legs and you can get that reach. Also on the side kick, it's possible that you might come up a little onto your knee. That's okay too, as long as you're really driving through. Okay? So, once a person comes down from a ground position here, looking at some of the targets for the side kick, we're going to be looking at the head. Not a pretty picture, but hey, that's the occupational hazard of being a rapist. That's one possible target. Or, if he's up on his knees, we're also going to be using a side kick into the groin. Okay, these are the ideal targets. In a scrappy situation, if you can't get the head and he's on his side for some reason, then you may end up catching him in the chest or in the throat. That's okay too. But again, we're going to go for the head or go for the groin. Now, the thrust kick position. Here again, from a charging situation, boom, thrusting up into the groin. And from a ground fight situation, it could be the head. That's one of them. This is one of the ways to buy some distance if somebody's getting too close. And I'm back here. Instead of retreating all the way backwards, I want to kick into him to get some distance, and then I can kick him from below also. So the thrust position, again, the targets are up into the head, could be into the groin position from a lying down on your back type scenario. The fear of rape and sexual violence is every woman's fear, and every parent's unspoken fear for their daughter. You can't always see it, but it's there. For many women, it crimps their sense of freedom. For some, it creates a state of generalized anxiety. The most underreported crime in America, rape isn't about sex. In fact, many rapists leave their wives and girlfriends to go out and commit rape. Rape is an act of extreme violence, not only to a woman's body, but also to her spirit and psyche. Survivors often comment how, far beyond the physical trauma, that something at the core was shattered or taken away. Even with the best of help and support, recovery from rape can take years. Rape is about power and control. The rapist's goal is to dominate, humiliate, and ultimately terrify and render a woman powerless. In this light, it's been a very effective weapon. Even just the fear of rape keeps many women subdued and tithed to a fear of men and their powers. This is an age-old crime. Even with the best of laws, punishment, and prevention programs, it's not going to go away until we, as a tribe, band together and stop them, the rapists. You can't rely on the good guys to protect you from the bad guys. Typically, no one else is around when a woman is assaulted. And that good guy, bad guy line can get blurry fast when Jekyll plays switcheroo with Hyde. So, we girls need to do it for ourselves. Now, here's some good news. For decades, maybe centuries, women were taught not to fight back. That resisting would only get them hurt worse, as though being raped or beaten doesn't constitute injury. But more recent studies have debunked this theory and consistently shown that forceful and immediate, now that's a key word, resistance strategies are effective in thwarting rape attacks and do not necessarily lead to greater injuries. One significant study conducted by professor and researcher Sarah Ullman from the University of Illinois at Chicago found that the injuries the women sustained were the results of the rapist's initial blows and strikes, which is what compelled them to fight back, but not a result of their resistance strategies. Now here's my bottom line. If a woman chooses not to defend herself in a sexual attack, let it be because she has assessed the situation and determined that it's far too dangerous, at least in that moment, but not because she doesn't know how to, or she thinks that she shouldn't. Having choices and know-how is not only critical in the event itself, but also can have a significant bearing in the aftermath. In her best-selling book, Trauma and Recovery, Dr. Judith Herman, one of the world's foremost experts on trauma, writes, "The experiences of women who have encountered a rapist suggest the same resilient characteristics are protective to some degree. The women who remained calm, used many active strategies, and fought to the best of their ability were not only more likely to be successful in thwarting the rape attempt, but also less likely to suffer severe distress symptoms, even if their efforts ultimately failed. By contrast, the women who were immobilized by terror and submitted without a struggle were more likely not only to be raped, but also to be highly self-critical and depressed in the aftermath." She adds, "Women's general high sociability, however, was often a liability rather than an asset during a rape attempt. Many women tried to appeal to the humanity of the rapist or to establish some form of empathic connection with him. These efforts were almost universally futile." Enough talk. Let's fight.
Turn over! Don't you fucking move, don't you make a fucking sound, you hear me? Do you hear me? Fucking twitch, you wanna live through this, you do what I say, right? Right? Not a sound, right? That's right, baby. You're gonna like this, who's your daddy, huh? Me, right, baby? Alright, don't fuck with me. Alright. You're gonna live, do just what I tell you, nothing else, you hear it? That's right. Okay, that's right, you just hold it right there.
Ow! Kick! 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 Eyes!
Fucking bitch. I told you not to fuck with me. Now I'm gonna kill you!
No! Kick! 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 Axe! Axe!
The challenging part of this in dealing with the sexual assault section here is not the techniques again. We're not going to teach you anything complicated. But what is most challenging and very important is learning how to manage fear and learning how not to be paralyzed or crushed on the inside by the actions and words of the bad guy. This is critical because that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's going to try and break your spirit. He's going to try and terrify you, dominate, humiliate, degrade, to get you to submit or succumb. That is essentially the rapist's goal. If he can have your mind, if he has control over your mind, then it's easy for him to have control over your body. Okay, so this is the challenging part we want to look at first. Now, there are certain, we call them weapons of intimidation, that you can count on that the bad guy is going to try and use in order to achieve those results. So we're going to talk a little bit about what some of those are.
Well, the first, he's just going to use his physical presence. He's going to use his greater size and weight and try and assert his dominance through a dominant position. He's going to use his voice and his tone and his language. He's going to use harsh or degrading language as well. He's going to use his facial expressions. He's going to show most people are held back by a show of raw aggression. And that's one thing he's going to try and do. He's going to show you that face of hate. He's also going to may slap you just to show you that he's willing to hurt you and can hurt you. It's another thing. He may very well display an actual weapon. Pull one out. Show it to you.
Now, I want to say a couple of points about this. In many rape attacks, weapons are used as part of the intimidation. So in this tape, what we're going to be looking at in a situation like that is many women who have successfully been able to talk the person into putting it down. It's not impossible, I won't say that, but it's difficult for somebody, for example, to hold a knife at you and go ahead and rape you at the same time. So one of the techniques for that is to, again, this idea of fake compliance or fake submission, to not telegraph, to try and lower his aggressive arousal. Yes, he has control over me. Yes, you're in charge. To get him to put the weapon down. And that's when you would initially open your counterattack. That's when you'd go for that first opening move right away. Okay? Well, that's about him. And I want to talk now about you, about us, what we are supposed to be focusing on, because you cannot let your focus go with all of what he's doing. This is will paralyze you. What you want to do the whole time he's running the rap and doing the moves and displaying his aggression, the whole time it's critical that you keep that focus centered inside of yourself, attached to a sense of power within yourself. And essentially what we're going to do is to take all the foul, the harsh, the degrading language, everything he says, every display of force, he sees those as his weapons. But we're going to turn those weapons around and use them against him. Now what I mean by that is that every time he says bitch and this and that and he slams or whatever he does, you have to make that trigger, that on switch, and activate a very primitive and very focused rage. It has to make you mean and angry and pissed off on the inside. And then in that moment, when there's an opening, which we'll learn to be able to spot those openings and in some situations create those openings, you take that firepower that he thinks he's got you, he's using it against you, and you turn it around and you cut him with it. You cut him with that energy. Now, here's a very basic technique. Again, right now I'm focusing on the inside, and then we're going to get to the techniques. One of the tricks for staying focused on the inside from a lying down any number of positions is to, while he's running his rap and doing his display, it's as though I'm coiling up on the inside like a snake. But on the outside, I look quite calm. I'm not telegraphing anything, but I'm coiling up like a snake for that moment, and I'm gathering my forces, pulling all of me together so I stay focused. This is where I'm summoning all those life forces, my courage, my will, my strength, my cunning, my wrath, my physical powers, and I'm going to unleash them as my secret weapons in that moment. You cannot test the waters. Opening move counts a lot. They're critical in this kind of situation. So, once we understand that this is where the action is inside of ourselves. This is how we get that strength together. Understand that, this will be the foundation. Once we have that in place, then we can add the techniques to it. Simple physical principle to elucidate what we were just describing. So, for example, if I'm lying down and he's got me pinned, once again, we've been here before. Realize that if you kind of turned your head as you were watching this, it's like we were standing up against a wall, only we happened to be lying down. But the same principles apply. If I start struggling, this is not going to work, because especially in this position, his chest, his upper body, which is his primary source of strength, is right on top of me. I cannot muscle him. If I try to do this again, I could be escalating the violence. You know, I've telegraphed my intention and so on and so forth. Now, so what I'm doing is I'm coiling up. This is when I practice at coiling up and trying to gather myself on the inside. If he wants to rape me or strike me or do any bad thing, he's going to use one or two hands. Eyes! At which point I would launch that opening move using my voice and the whole bit. Okay, so that's the basic principle. Now, let's look at some techniques. Again, we go back to the stuff that's already familiar. If the face is available at all, you've got one or two hands free while he's establishing his dominance, go for the eyes, or this eye strike. You could palm heel the nose. You could clap the ears. You could go into the throat. Again, whatever you do, you've got to be vicious. Okay? It's also possible if the face is in range, got all these juicy targets here, you could grab the head. Remember that nice head throw where you turn it? Now, if I turn his head all the way, guess what's going to happen, folks? And we'll show you a little heave-off trick in a minute here. I turn the head, I can throw him right off of me. Strategically, the strategy here is attack viciously, immediately. Now, let's say you have to do more. I want to then employ my legs, which are my strongest and longest weapons. I want to get my face and my throat, because I don't want to get his hands on my throat, okay? I want to get my vital organs here, watch what I do, at the furthest distance away, and get my legs in between, because I'm going to use them like battering rams. That's the simplest way to describe it. This is the bread and butter strategy. Get your head away, get your legs in between. We've already looked at those side kicks. Now I want to give you a couple of pointers about how to angle your body to get the best power and line up out of those kicks. Essentially, this is the ideal. We're not always going to get the ideal in reality, but let's go for it now. I'm aligning my spine. The back of my body is pointing, my tailbone is pointing at his face. That is my target. If that's my alignment, then I'm in a good position, because as I turn my leg over, kapow, my heel is going to go into his face. So that's the lineup. It's the lineup of my spine. And now it's also possible that you're going to use the groin as a target for the side kick. So if he comes up on his knees at any point, basically here, if the head is high, you want to kick low. Boom! Okay? Simple way to put it. If the head is high, kick low. If the head is in region, again, our favorite targets, our best targets, are going to be the head and throat region, one, and the groin region when that's in range for you. Okay, so those are our favorite targets. Now, I'm going to show you one more kick that you'll be using in these situations. Now, after a side kick, I'm going to switch over here. After, let's say, a kick to the head, if it gets grabbed in this way, because he's going to try and grab hold of or suppress your weapons. Let me backtrack for 1 second. If he grabs a leg here, okay, once again, I don't want to start struggling with him. There's a couple of options. Remember before I taught you that really fast, compact switch? This is where I'm going to use it. The clutch response is one of the most common things that happens when a person is hurt or they're struggling and so on. So let him grab me here, because now he's attached to me. If I move my center, boom, really fast, like I mean it, then his head is going to be conveniently located within my kick or strike zone. The other possibility, in terms of the strategy, again, getting your legs in between, is that he may suppress them or throw them down or something of that sort, in which case you are still in a great position. You can probably see the head comes in, even if I go down, eyes, strike, Okay? So, not a problem. Now, we're going to go back to the axe kick. If I was going to kick his groin, if he was up and I went to kick him here, boom! There's a good chance his head, if you get a good solid kick in there, is going to come down. This is too low a target now to deliver a side kick. I think you can see why. I'm all kind of crunched up. The side kick here is best delivered at about a height like this or something like that. So now, from this position, I'm going to show you a technique called an axe kick. And it's potentially lethal. I do want to warn you about that. This is basically the leg comes up. I'm going to do it near his head. And I'm using the heel. The leg comes up as high as you can get it. Up, down. I hinge. The movement here is hinging from the hip, not the knee. In other words, look at my hip here. It's here's where the hinge happens. If it was just from the knee, it would look like this. This is just a little chop chop. Okay? This is up, down. Look at the difference. Little chop chop. Axe. I hinge from the hip. This is where I'm going to get all of that power, and the heel is what I come down with, and there's almost a feeling of scooping back towards myself at the bottom of that move. So the move looks like this. It's hard. I mean, it's potentially a killer, and it's only to be used when the target is low. It could be the head, or it could be the face, it could be the body. You know, and again, a serious life-threatening situation, you may end up kicking the ribs this way. Bam! You know, the back of the body, the spine, pretty much any place that you deliver an axe kick to, it's going to be the end of it. That's going to be the end of it right there. Okay, I want to move along. Now, let me just say this too. If you practice this move, please be careful. One thing you need to do is keep a little bend in your knee as you bring the leg down, because otherwise you can hyperextend. By that I mean no bend. It's too much extension in the leg, and this can cause damage to yourself. You don't want to do that. This is self-defense, not self-injury. So the leg comes up, keep a little bend. Axe! Axe! You get the hip into it, I don't care how small you are, it's powerful. Okay, so in keeping with this strategy of using our longest and strongest weapons, the legs, let's look at another situation whereby you might be lying down. Now this could be in bed, it could be at the beach. Yes, there's all kinds of variables. What if you're on the bed and you're in a water bed and it's not a nice hard surface, or things go flying? Don't worry about that now. Right now we're going to work on the techniques. Then the applications are easy. So here's I'm looking at where I'm lying on my back, and this might be a situation where he's pinning me. Can you see here? I can't get my hands free. Okay? This would not be, again, I don't want to, oh, jeez, give me my, because now, ooh, boy, not a good scene. I know that's going to follow. He's probably going to punch me or slap me in the face. So he's got my arms pinned. Okay? That's not free, all right? And my hips are also pinned, so I can't really squiggle out of this in any way. So this is where I'm going to wait, because his hands are occupied. What's happening? Well, he's pinning me. That may be scary as hell, but he's actually not physically harming me right now. So I wait, and I coil, and I gather myself, and I breathe. And then, as soon as I can, I want to get my legs out in between and then use them, okay? Let's look at this one more time here. I'm going to wait until he's past my knees. Breathing, waiting. No! Then, from here, I'm ready to deliver a kick. Okay? The same thing works on the stomach. Same exact thing. So I could be lying down. He's pinned, okay? Again, no place to go, nothing to do. In the meantime, I have to look at the person's ugly face. I'm breathing, I'm coiling, I'm gathering myself. Leg comes up, boom! Okay, so the question to focus, what to focus on is not, oh my God, I'm paralyzed, I'm pinned, but you need to be thinking, what's free? Are my hips free? Are my arms free? Okay, as soon as something becomes free, where's my target on him? So in this situation, it's just legs, kick! In keeping with this principle, the strategy of getting your legs in between, we need to look at a situation here where sometimes you don't have that nice long distance to start out with. You might be cramped up or jammed. So I'm going to show you how you can use your knees to help open up some of that distance so you can fire off your good strong weapons. For example, in this type of situation.
Come here, baby.
No! 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 Okay, all I'm doing here basically is, as he's approaching, is I'm bringing my knees up and I'm going to get him in between, even if it lifts my hip off the ground here. Okay, even if I come up off of the ground from here, I'm going to use my knees to pummel him and to steer him in a certain way to help me buy myself a little better distance from here. Okay, then maybe I'm in a better position from here. Boom! Now I'm in a perfect position. So you may need to buy yourself some distance by getting those knees in between and just using them as a weapon. A couple of fine points on using these knees here is as a person closes, okay, especially as their lower body, if their lower body moves in with them, I can actually even sort of plant my heels here and then really, bam, bam, you have to be very close. And then use them as those explosive weapons. Here's another position where there's some special things we're going to do in order to get my legs in between. So again, I can use them as my primary weapon. Now, in this particular situation, his face, right, my first effort is to go for the face if it's within range. But his face is not in my strike zone, so that won't work. Now, also, he's got me pinned here, so I can't just pull my legs out because he's going to grab onto them and wrestle them back. So I can't just slide back and pull them out. This is something a little bit special. In this particular situation, what I'm going to do, first of all, is, again, fake compliance for a moment. Get my hands up. It's always good, by the way, to have your hands up and even on his arms in a light touch, which may, again, lower his aggressive arousal. Also, it allows me to check his hands a little bit, particularly if I can keep them near the elbow, okay? Now, from here, I'll do whatever you say. You can have whatever you want. I'm going to slip my hand down and place it on his knee and use it as a leverage point, because how I'm going to move is sideways. From here, hand comes down like this. So my hips scoot out the side. Basically, I can't go this way, but I can go that way. So this move, once again, he's got to be very close. And this is obviously a very common rape attack position. This may be the point where the rape or the penetration is actually going to happen. Put the hand here. No! It's a very fast, aggressive move so that my tailbone, my entire rear end, faces that wall. I can't be half-hearted about it. No! And immediately I sneak this leg in between, ideally getting it in that crease, okay, where his torso and thigh come together, because from there I can push off a little, and then I'm fired up right here for a nice thrust kick. Bam! Into his head, which again is at least a good way for me to get some distance. I'm going to kick him in his chest right now from here. Just boom! Once again, now I'm up and I'm happening. Another common position that women are often put in or start out in a sexual attack is when they're up on their hands and knees. So let's take a look at a little trick we have for this that, again, exploits that element of surprise.
All right, come on. Get up on your hands. Come on, get up on your hands and knees.
All right.
That's right, baby.
All right, okay.
You'll be my little puppy dog. That's right.
No! King!
Okay, so I'm going to explain now the how and why of what I just did. I'm going to start this from this position here. Now, First, as I'm getting up into this position, once again, for a moment, I don't have to look at him. There's a plus to that. Now, in this moment, if he's got my neck or my throat, this would not be a good time for me to start a move, okay? So I'm just going to wait, gather myself until my neck is clear, my head is clear. Now, once he gets down to the bottom of me, which is where he wants to be, right from there, I'm going to very aggressively just drop. Just drop onto one side or the other. From here, kick! Okay, and then you saw me deliver another kick. Look at it one more time. So here I am. Okay, I'm breathing, I'm waiting, getting ready. Drop! Kick! And then very explosively launch that kick. And you can drop onto either side. By myself, the move just, to practice, the move just is up here, breathing, waiting. Now, you don't want to wait too long once a person is down at your lower body. No! Kick!
Get
Ah!
up! Get
All right,
up!
okay,
Get up!
okay.
Get up!
All right, okay, anything
I
you
got
said.
you right now. Just stay right there.
Okay.
That's right, baby.
No! 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 So in this situation, all I'm doing here is he wraps his arm around me, okay, from whatever position he's in, I trap it or counteract, make it again a part of me. And now I'm going to throw myself basically onto him, just very aggressively to that side. No! I've got a piece of him here, plus, right from this position, bam! There's a perfect lineup. Here again, we've been here, done this before. This is a rear elbow strike from a lying down position. You can elbow him. You might, if you had to do more, once again, get my face out of the way, get my legs in between, and bam! Fire off a nice side kick. Here are some simple ways that you can practice this at home, and by that I don't mean get a partner and slam them in the head, but to really get that spirit of entering and the intensity and the importance of that opening move from a lying down position. So the first practice that I want you to do is lie down, okay? Now, what you're going to imagine, and try to make this as real for yourself as you can, is that some uninvited somebody is on top of you, okay? And they're about to hurt you, beat you, rape you, whatever. It's a bad deal. Practice that coiling up inside, okay? And then, and I'll do this for you first, I'll be using the word go to kind of launch the move, and it will look like this. Go. Eyes! Ready, kick! Okay, so there's a couple of moves I'm putting together here. First, this is like getting to zero. By zero, I mean it's not like you're so relaxed that you're spacing. This is just not telegraphing, breathing and relaxing in order to get that spring. Eyes! To go to 100, there has to be some relaxation in your body. If you're tense, you can't spring. So practice going from 0, eyes! Like that. Notice that this move from the lying down position, as much as I can, I'm going to use my stomach muscles to sit up into them. I can't just be throwing my little hands out there. Ooh, 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 do something, hands. This is all of me. Eyes! Delivering that strike. And the voice is a potent weapon here as well. So you'll come to the eye strike position, then immediately, just to practice some of these moves, you're going to, with those two hands, plunk them onto the ground, load up your leg. Okay? Remember, that leg is both your sword and your shield. From there, to practice a kick. So you'll come to this, and it will be kick! And again, kick like you mean it. Not a wussy or a wimpy or a ho-ho little kick, but kick! Even though it's imaginary right now, you're blasting the air molecules, make it count. So I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to show it for you now without speaking a word. Eyes! Kick! Go for explosiveness, go for intensity. 0 to 100%. That's the first practice. Here's another practice for you. It's because it's very important. This is going to combine side kicks and axe kicks, because you really want to make sure that you've got both of these moves wired so that you can use them effectively. So the drill starts out like this, Okay? And you're going to imagine that somebody is coming in an engulfing or hovering kind of manner. Here you are sort of in the middle of some scrappy situation. So the first thing is I'm going to use like an eye strike. Okay? So I was going right into the face. Then, immediately, I'm going to follow that up with a kick as though it were to the groin region. Okay? And then, as the body comes down, I'm going to get my leg up and use that axe kick. This is definitely a finishing technique here. So, here's what it's going to look like. Full speed, full power from this position. And I want you to start out as though you were being compressed or pushed back a little. So you recover from that and you come out of it. So from here, eyes, kick, X, X. Okay? If I were watching you do this at home, that's what I would need to see and feel in order for me to feel that you are actually doing it properly. Remember, you have got to be fierce. This is about you being the predator. So, one more time, it's going to look like this. Eyes, kick, X, X. Okay. Practice that on a soft surface. Those axe kicks are from both sides also. The axe kicks are very hard on the heel. You really should wear sneakers when you do those, and also have some good surface. Nice thick carpeting if you have anything like gym mats or anything like that. If you do it on a surface other than that, please be careful, and you will have to pull back or hold back a little bit so that you don't actually break your own heel bone. So it would really be best if you could rig something up so that you can do those kicks full blast, patterning in the whole 9 yards, getting the whole spirit into your body.
Don't fire you with him again. I'm going to kill you.
Okay, so far, all the stuff we've been showing you in this section has to do with entering techniques. Attacking back, striking the face, getting your legs in between. There's space of some kind that you create or that's available and you enter, you go in. Now, this next section is going to involve heaving the person off your body. In other words, what if the person's lying on top of you and they're bearing weight and you can't just get your legs in between? So I'm going to teach you some basic heave-off techniques. Again, I want you to think about this in the simplest way possible. Oh, somebody's on top of me. I need to throw them off. Then I can get my legs in between and carry on if I need to do more. So the first heave-off technique I'm going to teach you, we'll be using it in a couple of different situations. And again, watch for this. The power in this move is not going to be in my arms. It's going to be in my hips, okay? So the first one I'm going to show you from lying down is from a missionary position. No! Okay, I'm going to do that for you one more time. No! Okay, check out my finished position here. I want you to see what I'm doing. What's happening in this technique, I'm going to break it down for you, is if the person is pinning you, okay, pin 101, he's got my arms. Plant the foot. Just sneak that foot up and give it a firm plant. That's important, because that's where the power is going to come from, here. Then press down into Mother Earth, bam! So the hips are what's launching him, not your arms. Just like everything we've said before, you can't just muscle him off you with your arms. It's not going to work. Plant, heave! Notice that my upper and lower body are unified in one piece. They work together. Okay? I'm not just using my hips and leaving my arms behind, which would really screw up my back as well. So this is the finished position. And what's important is that that foot is planted. You cannot just lift it off the ground. That won't work. It's got to stay attached. Heave! That's where you get the power. Now, this same technique can also be used in a situation where the person is sitting on top of you, so long as they're bearing weight right over your hips. That's the key point in making this move effective. After, we'll show you another one. So let's look at the same move from a sitting position where you're being pinned. Maybe it's that first moment where he's just establishing dominance. Same thing. Let's look at this one more time. Okay? Planting the leg as high as you can. You might not get it up all the way. That's okay. But you can sneak it up a little bit. Plant it. He's this way. Heave! And this has to be very, like everything else, very explosive with a lot of intention in order to make this work. You can't really fake this move at all. Now I'm going to show you how you can combine upper body strikes with the lower body heave off. Again, this is your primary vehicle for getting the person off, but you also may need to be striking at the same time, especially if they start striking you. So here's what this looks like.
Don't you move.
No! Here's the actual finished position for this move. Now, a couple of pointers about this. In this particular situation, he's sitting on me, so I know I can use a heave off, and I don't want to get struck. Now, he's got both of my hands, which is very common. He's going to put both of my hands in one because he's going to want to control me as he delivers either a bitch slap, which is what this is usually called, or maybe a punch or something like that. Okay, so what I want to do is beat his timing. Essentially what I'm going to do is bring this leg up, and I'm going to slip this hand out from underneath. And Michael's going to explain a little bit about how that can happen.
Well, it's just that as I'm bearing weight on her completely, right now it's a little hard for her to get her hands out. But as I draw back for the strike, that's going to unweight a little bit. And also an extra little moment there where I'm doing something else. And it's pretty easy for her to slip that hand out.
So that's what I'm going to go for here. But the timing is crucial. Again, be prepared for the fact that you might get struck. But it's better to go preemptively. So I'm not just staring at his face and going, oh my God, I'm seeing all of him. So I catch the timing of that shoulder move. That's what I'm going to see before the strike comes down. No! And then go immediately and aggressively. So by myself, here's what this move looks like. I'm from here, and it looks like this. No! All pieces pretty much happen simultaneously. Okay? One more time. It's very explosive. No! But again, my basic finish position is the same. The only thing different is that I'm striking with this hand while it's going on. Now, even if you can't get that hand free or you can't get that upper strike happening, again, you really want to rely on this move. That's why it's so important for you to get this move down. Because even if I can't get the hand, no! I'm going to use the heave off. This is my mainstay right here. Heave-off techniques can also work from lying on your stomach. So I'm going to show you one, and then I'll explain.
Turn it over. Turn over.
All right.
Don't look at me.
Okay.
Don't look at
All right.
me.
I won't.
Keep your face like that.
Okay.
Don't you turn around.
No! Kick! Kick!
Now the explanation. Here's what's happening in the opening of this. As the person gets on top of you, there's a couple of things you want to do right away. First, you want to draw your leg up, okay? And usually a person won't mind that. Try to just slip your leg up. The higher you get it up, the more power you're going to have in the actual heave-off. Now, the first thing I'm doing here, if he's got your hands pinned, is that I'm going to use my arms and move them in such a way that off-balances him. So it's another one of these, one goes up, one goes down kind of a thing. So look at this again. from here, my left arm is going to shoot up to the corner as my right arm comes down. That already starts to loosen his balance. He's already heading that way. Now, because I've drawn my leg up, all I have to do is give a little extra, kind of a shove or a boost here by putting my foot on the ground and just pushing off with my hip a little bit. That may well be enough to get him off of you, at which point I just spun around, got my legs in between, and started kicking. Now, because we don't want to just count on the arms in case for some reason you can't get that, I'm going to show you one more thing. So let's assume that I can't get the arms moving for some reason. Okay? What I'm going to do now is use my legs, and I'm going to scissor them aggressively so it looks like this. No! That is how I can dump him off. Okay, watch this move one more time. What happens is, let me just show you this to you without him. My right leg right now is up. I'm going to drive my right leg and my right heel down and scoop my left leg underneath so it looks like this. That's basically the move. You can see that it creates kind of a ledge that the person will go over. Okay, so let's watch that with him on top of me one more time. So this is not about the arms. I'm not going to be able to do anything with my arms, so my legs have to go, and this just has to be very explosive. No! Okay, so again, the move is from here to here. One more simple heave-off technique that's a variation of this big plant and throw kind of thing. Essentially, it boils down to just flopping your leg over his and then throwing him off. It's not as big of a heave-off. It's more of a kind of roll the body off. But in reality, it really doesn't matter as long as you get him off. So it looks like this. Also, notice that here, the good thing here is that I've got a piece of him trapped. I've flopped my leg over him, and I've got a piece of him trapped, which sets up nicely for these kind of kicks. And also knee dives into the groin. Okay, let's look at this move again. Flop the leg, okay? Just flop it over. Now from here, I'm just going to grab onto him and just kind of a rollover with a little attitude. And then you could dive in here or whatever's next. It's very, very simple. Even if he was sitting on me, I could use the same technique. Flop. Catching a piece of his leg here. Okay? So that's just very simply flop and ditch him. Just get him off of you. Get rid of him. Let's look at a couple of practices that you can do at home to get these heave-off techniques. So the first one I'm going to show you is from simply a missionary position. You've got to have a partner who you feel comfortable doing this with, obviously. Have them lie on top of you this way and pin the hands really hard. Pick up your leg and heave. It's that simple, but practice this. You also want to practice this from a sitting position. Pick up a leg and heave. Okay? Really you'll feel the power in this move. It's very powerful. It doesn't look, it looks sometimes like it's a lot more difficult than it is, but once you've got the person on top of you and you use your hips, it's actually quite simple. The third one I want you to practice is using that more sort of flop the leg and heave them off or roll them off technique. So you can practice it like this. This time, the person is lying down a little closer like they're grappling or they're going to pull you into them. Just flop your leg, roll them off. You can use your hands also to get a little more oomph there. And make sure that you've got a piece of that leg trapped. That's important because, again, that would allow you to follow up. Here's another powerful technique. Now, this is it may come up in any kind of situation. It's not a heave-off. But if somebody's head is at the side of your body, you can also hook a leg over it and slam their head down. Looks like this. No! Look at this finished position for a second. I've got him basically locked between my legs, as close to my knee by his neck as possible. This may well break a person's neck, particularly if we're talking about a hard surface. If you had to do more from there, you just pull your legs out and keep going. I'm going to show you this one more time. I'm going to try and slow it down. It's a little difficult to do this in slow motion because, again, it's one of those moves that uses a lot of momentum. Ow! Just bring your leg up. Let me show it to you by myself here for a sec. You're bringing it up, you're hooking the head, and slamming your legs down. So you've basically got the head trapped between your legs, and you slam it down as hard as you can. Like I said, this is likely to be a neck breaker, but it comes up in many situations when somebody's at the side and your legs are free. Here's one last move. If you're lying down sunbathing at the beach or on some grassy area someplace and some guy comes up and picks up your legs as though to drag you someplace, here's a great technique.
Ah, I got you now, girlie.
No! No! Ha ha. I don't think so. This technique is really simple, and it's somewhat comical too. All that's happening is, as he's grabbing my legs, instead of staying back here and freaking out, he's pulling me. Go with the flow again. Bring your hips in and counter grab. Just grab hold of the ankles. It was like that Hey Mo one. If he's moving, or you can use your feet to push him back, he's going to fall down, go boom. Now you're perfectly set up to axe kick just about anything. Okay? So, this is the leg drag.
Come on, baby. Shut up.
What?
Shut up. I got a little present for you, baby. I need you to get me started a little bit here, all right? All right, let me get myself. What the?
No! 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 Okay, so let me show you the trick, what's going on here. This is really a very powerful opening move. First, the person is sitting up on you. They're probably going to be sitting pretty high on your chest. That's just the nature of the beast. Now, the basic principle here in both of these oral rapes is that you want to send the assailant in the direction that he's already going. Give him a one-way ticket. Now, in this particular one, what's happening is it only works in that moment when maybe he's going to unzip himself or whatever he's going to do. And for a second, he's sitting up like this, all right? What you're going to do is catch him with both your legs. This is a double leg hook. It looks like this. And slam him down, okay? And I mean slam. You have to really you got to get your hips up and get your legs around him. Watch this move one more time. If I can do it, you can do it. I'm barely 5 feet tall. I don't particularly have long legs. The timing is important. Now! No! No! And I just take my fist, put one hand over the other one, slam into the groin. You've got him in a great position here. And then I just scoot it back, wait for a thrust kick. And then if you needed to do more, well, you just continue to keep kicking him or knee him in the head or slam your heavy vase into his head if that's next to your bed table or whatever, okay? So that's this first move. I'm going to show you what it looks like just by myself. The legs are going to come up high, around, hook, slam, and follow through. Momentum is part of what works in this. So up, down, no! And then you continue as you need to from there. want to show you what this move looks like if you practice it by yourself, which is what you should do. Do not practice this with a partner for numerous reasons, not the least of which it can break their back. So to do this, the legs are going to come up high. My hips, my butt has to come off the ground a little bit. My legs scoop around, catch the shoulders, and then slam them back using my entire momentum. That plays a role in this. It looks like this. Up, hook, no! And then basically I'm just slamming him in the nuts. And it's one fist with the other hand wrapped around it. Okay, and then from there, what I used was a thrust kick. At that point, there's any number of things that you could do. But the important point, again, is that the legs come high. See how I've come off the ground here? Especially if you have shorter legs, as I do, you might not be able to reach. So you really want to get your legs up as high as you can, hook them, and then slam. Okay? No nonsense. Here's another oral rape defense, and this one is even a more common position.
Come on, baby. Come on. You're going to take it all, baby. That's right. Come on. There you go.
Bite!
Oh! Oh!
Kick! Kick! All right. Let me explain what's going on here. The first move I used was a bite. Well, obviously I can't really bite that, so I'm yelling the word bite, but here's why. Here's the logic behind this. If somebody's leaning over you, again, the goal is send him the direction he's going in. It wouldn't make sense for me to try and push him back now. His whole weight is going forward. That's fine with me. So as soon as he, takes himself out, okay, you want to bite. Even that little wolf nip, preferably to the testicles, just bite. Bite! And yell the word bite. It's amazing what a man will do when you yell the word bite when your mouth is near that part of the body. Now, what I'm doing next is I'm planting my legs, and I'm also making a nice solid fist here. And this is like a volleyball move. I want to thrust with my hips and strike. This is not a tap or just a hit. It's a thrust. Look at the finished position of my body here. See how all of me is engaged in this. The feet plant, the hips come up, and the arms thrust. So like everything else, it's driven from the hips. You're really probably not going to get enough juice. This may pound him back there, but this gives you a better chance of actually driving him over you a little, at least a little bit, so that you clear yourself here, okay? Now, once I get to that point, I'll show this again to you from the bite. Bite! Volley! Okay, now it's very possible the person may fall on the floor if this is a bed. That's fine. Here again, you just, you can dive on their chest, or you can hit them with something that's in the room, or you can get out of the apartment or home if you have a chance. From here, what I did in this position is I just spun around and I kicked him back here at the back side of the scrotum. Kick! Okay, if you need to do more, you just carry on with your kicks and toolbox of techniques that you already have. So by myself, let's look at this technique. There's something hanging over me. Bite! Plant. Volley! And then just spin around and get ready for some kicks. There's a couple of important points about rape attacks. If somebody's trying to rape you, chances are that their groin region and or their face region is going to be in your strike zone at some point in time. So you can also, anytime the genitals are exposed, grab on, yank, twist, squeeze. You can take the penis in one hand and the gonads in the other and twist them and turn them in opposite directions. You can punch them, you can bite them, you can elbow them. So just think about this logically for a minute. Also, the face is probably going to be close to you. Maybe the person is on top of you like this. Again, so you've got all your tools that you can strike the face with. If they go to kiss you, lock lips, you can bite the lip. So remember, just all those dirty tricks come into the throat. May be there. You may be able to get your fingers and drive them into that notch in the throat. You turn their head. So you may be able to get your knees right away up into the genital region. So in addition to these specific kinds of techniques I've been showing you, just use your common sense. If there's a vulnerable target that's literally staring you in the face, then grab it. Before I sign off, there's a few reminders and tips that I'd like to highlight. Visualize yourself being attacked in different scenarios. See yourself going through that initial terror and panic, then summoning your forces and attacking back with focus and ferocity. Remember, adrenaline is a wonder drug. A woman can be terrified, she can be crying, she can be hurt, she can even be cut or shot and still fight back and escape. Never, ever give up. As we say, it's not the size of the woman in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the woman. Naturally, with power comes responsibility. As part of the good female warrior tribe, we must always apply an ethic of least harm. This is our moral and legal responsibility. Violent offense should only be used if your or a loved one's survival is at stake, not because someone slights you or you're having one of those bad hair days. Lastly, we live in a culture where too many women are at war with their bodies. It's hard to protect yourself if your body is your enemy. Make your body your ally. And remember, as Dr. Ruthless says, whatever you do in your life, do it 100% and do it with your hips.
Open the door! Open the door!
Oh shit, my door!
Open the fucking door! Open the fucking door! God damn!
Oh shit, it locked again.
Open the fucking door! Open the fucking door! God damn!
Don't buy this gum. It tastes like rubber.